Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And surprisingly, there is actually a ton of good stuff for us to talk about here today. Now, I am flying solo today. Rob's not here because last night, as we were putting the show notes together, realized there was really only one or two topics. So me and Rob talked last night and said, okay, so Rob was going to take the day off. And then this morning, like a whole bunch of stuff, some really, really cool stuff dropped, as a matter of fact. So we do actually have a little bit of a busy day here in front of us. And by the way, guys, thank you so much for making this a part of your day. I know everybody's got busy days ahead of themselves. And the fact that you would take an hour or two out of your day to spend here with us, that's pretty awesome. So thank you for being here. Listen, guys, here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break down the show into two parts. The first part, we're going to take our main topics, and that's what we're going to discuss. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. And the way you get a live comment or question on is simply by using the tip link that's in the top of the description of this video, or you can enter it manually, just streamelements.com, as a man named Nick Pooh Bear just did, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's within reason. And of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. All right, guys, before we get into those two pre-written, ready to go main topics, we do have a number of things that have come up off the top. Before I get to those, though, I want to remind you guys that I know you can't always be in front of a video, so if you want to get your daily John Campea fix, you can simply go and get our podcast. Our podcast is available on just about every podcasting app of your choice, but also Amazon just launched their Amazon podcast as well. Amazon has its own podcasting service now as well. And the John Campea Show is one of the first ones to be on there. You can go find that there, or once again, on your podcasting app of choice. Okay, guys, with all that down, let's get to our first off the top. And that first thing we're going to discuss here is this. With the lockdown going on, I just saw this morning. One of the things we have been waiting for anxiously is for production to get back underway. That's step one. You got to get movies getting made again and television shows in order for us to get them a little bit later. And of course, not only have theaters been shut down, production's been shut down on just about everything as well. Now, we have talked a lot in recent weeks about major properties starting to get the wheels moving again, seeing productions going in. We talked the other day about the fact that Falcon and Winter Soldier is now back in production. We saw George St. Pierre on set. Can't wait to see him back as Batroc, which is going to be great. But another major MCU Disney Plus show is now also back up and running again. And it might be the one I am most looking forward to, which is Loki. It has been officially confirmed that Loki is now back up and running. They are back into production again. Don't get me wrong. I am very excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I am significantly more excited now for WandaVision than I was before after that terrific trailer that dropped the other day. Absolutely love that trailer. But this remains the top one of interest to me. Tom Hiddleston has absolutely killed it as Loki. I would go so far as to say this. I think Tom Hiddleston is one of the reasons that the MCU in general has taken off the way that it has. His portrayal of Loki has just been incredible. And a lot of people forget the way Tom Hiddleston got the role of Loki was that he was apparently the runner-up to play Thor. He was actually auditioning for Thor, and it kind of came down between him, Chris Hemsworth, and I can't remember who the third person. I think there was a third person in the running, and it really came down to Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, and some other guy. And they liked Tom Hiddleston so much that even though they gave the Thor role to Chris Hemsworth, they're like, how would you like to play Loki, his brother? And he's like, sure. And it has been an amazing win all the way around. So it's good to see that Loki is back up and in production again, and it remains my most anticipated one coming from Disney Plus. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most, but we're going to get a few more in front of those, and I'm looking forward to those too. What do you guys think about this? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. Another thing, staying in the superhero realm, but this time we're going to flip over to the DC side of things. James Gunn is directing his upcoming Suicide Squad film. Of course, there was the big public thing that the fallout of his old tweets. He got let go by Alan Horn from Disney. They parted ways. Every single movie studio in Hollywood lined up to offer James Gunn whatever project he wanted. He went with Warner Brothers. He wanted to do Suicide Squad. Of course, now he's back with Marvel again. He's going to make Guardians of the Galaxy 3 a little bit later, but for now he's focusing on Suicide Squad. And the teaser sizzle trailer they showed us for Suicide Squad at DC Fandom was fantastic. And it got me really pumped. And one of the characters that I was actually really excited to see was this Peacemaker character being played by John Cena. Well, it looks like James Gunn's dance card has just filled up a little bit more. It has just been announced this morning, like about 10 minutes before we started the show, that HBO Max has ordered a standalone spin-off Peacemaker series, an 8-episode Peacemaker series for HBO Max that will be written by James Gunn, and James Gunn is going to direct a number of the episodes in it as well. Now, before you think, well, I guess that means that Peacemaker doesn't die in Suicide Squad, I think this sounds like it's a prequel. This is what it says on Variety. HBO Max has given a straight-to-series order for Peacemaker, a spin-off from the upcoming Suicide Squad film. John Cena will play the title role, reprising his role from the film. The film's writer and director, James Gunn, will also write the series and direct multiple episodes, including the pilot. HBO Max has ordered 8 episodes of the show based on the DC comic character, which is described as an action-adventure comedy. The exact plot of the series is being kept under wraps, but it is said it will explore the origins of Peacemaker, a man who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he has to kill to get it, which is, of course, the way that James Gunn phrased that as well. He's a guy who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he's got to kill to do it. So according to this, now they're not confirming that this is a prequel. Listen to the wording very carefully. The exact plot of the series is being kept under wraps, but it is said to explore the origins of Peacemaker. It is said to explore the origins of Peacemaker. So, I mean, maybe it won't be, maybe it will be a sequel to Suicide Squad, but right now, all signs point to this is going to be kind of an origin story, so it's probably going to be a prequel. So we can still be left to wonder, so does Peacemaker die in the new series, or doesn't he? I gotta tell you, I love this news. And here's the main reason. The main reason I love this news is because of the involvement of James Gunn. Now, if you guys have followed me for any period of time, you know that I actually like John Cena. I really do. I always thought he could never act worth anything. But then, a number of years ago, he started to really find his groove with comedy, right? As a supporting comedic character, I started to really like him. It's like he's got actually a pretty good natural sense of comedic timing. I still never thought that he could carry a movie and be the lead like he did that. What was it called? Cock Blockers? No, they changed the title to just Blockers. Remember he did that comedy a couple of years ago, Blockers? He was the lead guy. And honestly, I completely felt the same way. I felt like John Cena can be a funny guy on screen. He's got some very natural comedic timing, but he does not have the skill set to lead a film. And I think Blockers was a really good example of that. But Blockers was a number of years ago, and he's had a lot of time to work on that and develop it. But here's the main reason why I'm excited about this, is because James Gunn has already shown that he can take a wrestler, Batista, who has a certain set of acting skills, but limited sets of acting skills, although Dave Bautista has gotten much better over the years, but still at the time, Dave Bautista had a very limited set of acting skills. And what was James Gunn able to do? James Gunn was able to do Drax the Destroyer in the Guardians of the Galaxy in such a way that it really accentuated the things that Dave Bautista was good at, while protecting him and hiding those areas that not exposing Dave Bautista to certain acting situations that would expose his weaknesses as an actor. And as such, Drax came across as awesome in Guardians of the Galaxy. And again, over the years, Dave Bautista has been very dedicated to acting, and he's gotten a lot better. And now, you know, we saw him in Blade Runner 2049, and now we're going to see him in Dune. You know, if Denis Villeneuve wants to work with him, he's got to have developed a lot. But if James Gunn can bring that same magic, really accentuate all these natural comedic giftings that John Cena really has, along with a big intimidating physical presence, just like Dave Bautista did. And if he can kind of minimize John Cena's exposure to maybe those areas that he's not great in yet, and I'm sure he's getting better, then we can turn out with something pretty special. And again, I just love the idea of this character and the way James Gunn has described it. I'm very excited for the movie. And this is the other reason to kind of be excited about this. To me, this suggests that Warner Brothers is very happy with what James Gunn has done with Suicide Squad. It doesn't guarantee that, and just because Warner Brothers is happy with it doesn't mean you and I will be happy with it, but it at least is a sign of confidence. This to me says Warner Brothers sees what James Gunn is doing with Suicide Squad, sees this character, Peacemaker, being played by John Cena, and say, you know what? We like what we see. We like it so much, and we're so confident in it. Let's give it over to HBO Max and do a full series on it. So to me, this is good news from the series point of view. We got James Gunn writing and directing a bunch of it. John Cena is going to be in there. But to me, it's also a bit of good news about Suicide Squad itself. I cannot wait to watch this movie. And this news about a spinoff show has only made me more excited about the movie itself. Question is, guys, what do you think about this whole news about Peacemaker getting a spin-off show? Are you still a little apprehensive about maybe John Cena leading it? I think in the hands of a director like James Gunn, I don't think that's going to be an issue. But how do you feel about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, got one more thing off the top that I'd like to discuss here today. And that is this. You know, we've been talking a little bit about the upcoming Aaron Sorkin film, Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, the first little teaser trailer for Trial of the Chicago 7 came out just recently and looked really good. Now, I'm all on board with this movie because it's Aaron Sorkin. His directorial debut was a fantastic debut in Molly's Game. He's obviously one of the most celebrated writers in the business today. And this Chicago 7 just has a stacked cast. I mean, you're talking about Academy Award winner Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, even Skeletor himself. Even Skeletor himself is in there with Frank Langella. It is just a great-looking cast based on an incredible, riveting true story. And you've got Aaron Sorkin directing it. It's a lot of things to be excited about. Well, brand new trailer for Trial of the Chicago 7 just came out, just dropped. And listen, we always talk about on this show about how the job of a trailer is to take your anticipation level, of a movie, no matter how high or how low, and bump it up a few notches, right? If you have very little expectations, get you a little bit more interested in it. If you're already excited, make you even more excited about it. I got to tell you guys, this thing about Trial of the Chicago 7, to me, looks absolutely phenomenal. This trailer gripped me. Like the whole thing absolutely gripped me. Let's talk about some of the basics of a trailer, all right? Basics of a trailer. For a good trailer, I think a trailer needs to, first of all, communicate to me, what is the story? What is this about? Without giving too much away. That's a big key. What is this story about without giving too much away? That's the key thing. Does this trailer do that? Absolutely it does. It 100% does. We absolutely see that about, you know, the formation of what these guys are trying to do, the fact that it causes a huge stir, the fact that, you know, the rioting starts, they're trying to pin it on them, all this kind of stuff. Like it really does, without giving too much away, it kind of lays out what the general idea is of the story. And that's important. The only part of it, I got to admit, that maybe felt like was something I could have done without, like hanging in with the whole idea of, are they giving too much away? The one part of the trailer to me is about that one scene where they go up to the judge, Frank Langella, and Frank Langella says to the one lawyer, are you suggesting that I'm being prejudiced against a black man in my court? No, he says, you're the first person, he says to the lawyer, you're the first person to accuse me of being prejudiced against a black man in my court. And then the other lawyer says, will make me the second. To me, that felt like giving, that should have been a moment, I think, saved for the movie. I think that should have been a moment saved for the movie. I don't think that's something that should have been revealed. That should have been revealed right there in the trailer. I don't think that should have been revealed there. That seems like a really key, powerful moment. But other than that one thing, I thought this trailer looked absolutely fantastic. I loved it, and I cannot wait to see this thing. 100%. I cannot wait to see this thing, and I thought the trailer was great. Question for you guys is, what did you think of the trailer? I thought it looked fantastic. Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. I said that was the final off the top. But in reality, we have one more. We have one more off the top. This just came out a couple of minutes ago, and I'm mildly surprised. I am mildly, not completely surprised because I've talked about this, but I'm mildly surprised. And that is this. It has now been reported, this is coming to us right now from Variety, that Black Widow, West Side Story, and Eternals have all postponed their release dates. Black Widow, which of course was supposed to be in theaters already. Black Widow, which was supposed to be in theaters already. It got pushed to November. It has been pushed again. Now, recently we talked about how Disney's been putting out a little bit more marketing. They did those magazine covers. I saw a new trailer run that had the November date written on it, and it started making me think, I guess they really are keeping that November date. Good for them. Well, I don't know much about this because I'm just getting this news like a lot of you guys. Apparently, it's been delayed again, as well as Eternals and West Side Story. Let's read through this, shall we? Disney has postponed the release of fall blockbusters such as Marvel's Black Widow, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, and Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile by several months. The results are bad news for the exhibition industry. It's absolutely horrendous news, which is facing fierce headwinds after closing for months due to coronavirus. And you guys remember we talked on the show the other day about, hey, great, the theaters got open again. What's the use of the theaters being open if there's not any new movies to play? And we talked about that the other day. Anyway, the studios kept the late November release date of Pixar's Soul, surprising some in the industry who had expected the animated family film to either move to a later perch or get released on Disney+. Yeah, there were those rumors about Soul being put onto Disney+, but as we talked about on this show, a Disney representative debunked that and said weeks ago, nope, we are keeping it in a theatrical. Let's see if that holds up. But for now, they're keeping that in theatrical. The moves set off a cascade of distribution shifts that will upend the theatrical landscape for months. Other Marvel releases, such as Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings and Eternals, will all debut deeper into 2021 now. Disney's release date shifts all but guarantee that box office revenues this year will reach a nadir. I'm not sure what that means. Nadir. Analysts have already projected the domestic grosses would have declined between 70 to 80% due to the pandemic. So it's looking like I'm not seeing a new release date. There it is. There's a new release date. Black Widow will now open on May 7th, 2021. So they're moving this thing December, January, February, March, April, another 5 months. They're moving this thing another 5 months. 5 months. Death on the Nile, follow-up to 2017's box office hit Murder on the Orient Express, which I didn't love Murder on the Orient Express, to be honest with you, will now come in December 18th, 2020. That's not much of a move. That's only moving less than 2 months, so that's not so bad. And what about, West Side Story, which marks Steven Spielberg's first foray into musicals, was expected to be a key Academy Award contender. The awards career may still be in its future, but not for this year. West Side Story will launch a year later than expected on December 10th, 2021. So we got West Side Story being pushed by a full year. That's not terribly surprising because, yeah, this was clearly going to be an Oscar kind of a film, so they want to release this in Oscar season. And if it can't be this Oscar season, I guess they're going to push that to another one. And then we get into some key stuff here. Due to interconnected nature of Marvel Cinematic Universe, Black Widow's move shifted back other installments in the superhero franchise. Eternals, a comic book adventure about a superpowered alien race, will now debut on November 5th. November 5th, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. It gets bumped another 9 months. It was previously dated for February 12th, 2021. Chloe Zhao directed the film, which stars Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, Gemma Chan, and Kumail Nanjiani. Nanjiani endorses the move on Twitter. Nanjiani writes, Eternals delayed to November 5th, 2021. Marvel made the right and responsible decision. There's a pandemic. Nothing is more important than health and lives. I can't tell people to go to a movie theater until it feels safe to go to one. Take care of yourselves, people. I promise it will be worth the wait. So, once again, Black Widow now delayed a whole bunch. Delayed to May again, December, January, February, March, April, May, delayed another 6 months. Another 6 months. Eternals delayed another 9 months. They are basically, Disney here is waving the white flag. Disney here is waving the white flag. I don't necessarily blame them because, again, we've talked a lot on this show about these are unprecedented times. These are absolutely unprecedented times. And we are getting situations and context thrown at us that nobody's had to deal with before. And like I said before, the movie theaters, the movie studios, they're all just trying to figure this out as they go. There's no playbook for any of this. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. This hurts. This hurts. Because I will tell you what. Listen, again, I don't blame them for this move. I don't blame them for this move. This may very well be the right decision and the right move for them to do. I've got to say, though, I don't know that there's going to be movie theaters around for them to open up in come May or June. You know, again, this goes back one more time to a discussion we had on this show previously about how, you know, it's great that the movie theaters have gotten themselves open and started the process of raising awareness that the theaters are back. Our safety procedures work. We're very strict about our safety and our customer safety. And you can come and have a night at the movies and enjoy yourself and be safe and blah, blah, blah. It's great that they can do that. But if there's no new movies, there's no point. If there's no new movies, there's no point. Because while I thought it was a great idea for movie theaters to open before new movies released, and show some catalog movies like Lord of the Rings, like Empire Strikes Back, like Back to the Future, and those types of movies, that's a short window. You know, that'll work a little bit to get people ramped up to coming back to the theaters. You can't keep the movie theaters open for another 6 months without big films. You just can't do it. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm taking sides because I understand where the studios are coming from. I do. They're in a tough situation. They're just doing the best that they can. But what I am saying is this leaves the movie theaters in an extremely precarious position. And if the movie theaters go under, which I'm starting to really suspect they may, it is going to change entertainment forever. Because I know there are some ill-informed people out there who think that, oh, it's no big deal. Your movie theater's closed. You just transition over on streaming. That's not how it works, folks. That's not how it works. The studio heads did a big roundtable on this explaining that you just don't get the same money. You just don't get the same money. So what I fear may be happening here, we may be on the brink of the apocalypse. Listen to me being an alarmist. We may be on the brink of a theatrical apocalypse, and that is going to fundamentally destroy a whole bunch of the movie theater system or the movie studio system. Because yeah, they can make the transition to online and streaming stuff like that, but they're about to look at their revenues, take a 50% cut. They'll make half of what they made before. This is going to fundamentally change everything. And it's crazy. Now, again, I understand this sounds really alarmist. Maybe I am being really alarmist because I just saw this news that, Black Widow has been pushed not just by a few weeks, not just by a month. It's been pushed 6 months. Eternals pushed by 9 months. Now, it does say in the article, they're going to keep Soul at the end of November. They're going to throw that movie out there, see how it does. If they throw it out there and it does great, maybe they revert. Maybe they move the release schedule around again. Maybe they bring Black Widow back a little bit. I don't know at this point. But while this is very disappointing for you and me, and I believe this is probably just more of a sign of more things to come, this is going to be absolutely, fundamentally devastating to the movie theater industry. This is going to be absolutely devastating to the movie theater industry. Again, who knows? Maybe we'll see, again, I just said Soul come out and do blockbuster business. Possible, I suppose. Possible. Maybe by November, maybe 2 months from now, maybe Tenet will have done all the hard work Tenet was the sacrificial first penguin in the water, but it got the machine going, and now maybe Soul can be the beneficiary of that. Maybe Bond keeps its release date, and we see some big movies come out between now and the end of the year. Maybe. But now with these moves, I'm really starting to wonder. I think I now expect. I'm really now starting to expect. I always knew, say, the new Bond movie getting moved was a possibility. I think this move to me now shifts that to me. Now I expect the new Bond movie to move. And now I'm starting to wonder if there's going to be any movie theaters left around by the time they want to open these things. And again, I'm not saying it's the wrong decision. I'm just saying it is a horrendously difficult and tough spot that the entire entertainment industry is finding itself in. And again, if you guys are just popping a little bit late, the story that we're talking about right now, once again, just breaking, Black Widow, as well as Eternals, other key films as well. Death on the Nile has been delayed, but only by about a month or two, just very little bit. But we're seeing West Side Story, the new Steven Spielberg film, has been bumped an entire year. Black Widow has been bumped by another 6 months to May of 2021. And we've seen the Eternals push back an additional 9 months from its current release date. It's a big shift. And I think this might just be the first domino in a bigger exodus that we hear from other movies that have already moved a bit and may now come out and say, we're just going to move it another 8 months. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure you guys are going to want to talk about this in the live comments part of the show, so I'll save the rest for that then. But guys, question is, what do you think about this news? Again, for me, because of the magazine cover and the new trailer with the November release date, I was starting to believe that, we were going to see Black Widow open in November. I mean, I wasn't going to be shocked if it moved, but I was starting to believe it would open in November. And I thought if it did move, it might move by 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I didn't see it moving by 6 months. This is huge. What do you guys make of this? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our two main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your big story that you think should be a main topic here. Hit submit. It's totally free. And then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Stephen Calderon. And Stephen Calderon writes, what are your thoughts on the farewell director Lulu Wang, who is just amazing, by the way, Lulu Wang criticizing Ron Howard's decision to direct a biopic of Chinese pianist Lang Lang? Should Ron step down and have an Asian director take over the project? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, this is really interesting here. So the basic gist is this. Celebrated pianist Lang Lang, he put out a memoir Ron Howard is going to be making and directing a film, a biopic based on his life. And what has happened is that Lulu Wang has come out, the director of The Farewell. And by the way, let me say this. If you guys have not seen The Farewell, what the hell are you waiting for? If you've not seen Lulu Wang's film, The Farewell, I don't know if you're waiting for a handwritten invitation from Awkwafina. This movie is one of the more beautiful movies I've seen in a long time. It is just simply a beautiful film. It's really something special when a movie can make you feel. And The Farewell is a movie that made me feel. And it had my wife bawling in tears, but it had me, I was feeling the feels. Believe that. And you know, up until that point, I didn't get, why is Awkwafina, why is this kid getting these roles? I mean, I hadn't been really impressed by her or something. And then I saw her in The Farewell. I'm like, holy crap. She's fantastic in this movie. Like, she's a force of nature. And I suddenly, just like that, became a big fan of Awkwafina. So that was good too. So just as a little preface to all this, if you have not seen The Farewell, you really must go and watch The Farewell. Here's the problem. And this is what comes up here. So as I just mentioned, Lulu Wang, the director of The Farewell, had some comments about the fact that Ron Howard, one of the more celebrated directors ever, the fact that Ron Howard was going to be directing this movie about Lang Lang. And she came out pretty stinging, and she kept talking on Twitter. It came out as a series of tweets. It got more and more, you could tell, angry and more frustrated. And but you see the headline here in IndieWire, Lulu Lang speaks out against Ron Howard directing a biopic of Chinese pianist Lang Lang. Now, if we go down and take a look at what her actual tweets were, it starts off, you could tell she didn't like it, but it starts off fairly civil. As a classically trained pianist born in China, I believe it's impossible to tell Lang Lang's story without an intimate understanding of Chinese culture and the impact of the Cultural Revolution on artists and intellectuals and the effects of Western imperialism. Just saying. So, okay, so she comes out and takes a swipe. I mean, she's clearly taking a swipe at Ron Howard in response to the story in The Hollywood Reporter that Ron Howard was going to be directing this. She decides to come in and take a swipe at him. She continues on, though. She goes, I'm not saying this because I want to direct the movie. I do not. I just don't think these are the artists to grapple. She just basically said Ron Howard's not the guy to do this without using his name. I just don't think these are the artists to grapple with the cultural specificities of the Northeast China, where Lang Lang and my family are from, or with the cultural aspects of physical violence in his upbringing. Then you can start hearing the frustration in her voice as she went on to her last tweet. Have we learned nothing from Ulan? I haven't said anything because yes, representation and many people I love are involved, but I just have to, because 2020, man, and I'm fucking exhausted. So clearly you could start to hear the frustration and the indignation in her voice pick up there a little bit. Now, let me just say off the top here again, just like I was saying before, if you have not seen Lulu Wang's movie, The Farewell, you absolutely must. It is a masterpiece. I mean, and I think people use that word too loosely, but it's a masterpiece in filmmaking. It is a low budget, simple story that just takes you on an emotional journey that is beautiful, and you smile and your heart smiles and you want to cry at the same time. It's an absolutely beautiful film, and I cannot wait to see more work from Lulu Wang. Let's just be very clear about that. Another thing we need to be very clear of is this, is that in this environment, that we're in Hollywood and whatever, there is no denying that there has been, for over a century in Hollywood, an intentional, specific, and aggressive agenda in Hollywood of exclusion. There's no way around that, and there's no denying it. All right? There's just no denying it. You can try to spin it however you want, but for over a century, there has been a straight up, flat out agenda in Hollywood for over 100 years to keep women out, to keep black people out, to keep Asians out, to keep anybody that don't look like me out. There has been that aggressive agenda. And that's finally being addressed these days. We're finally seeing that agenda being brought down. And then some stupid people see the ending of that agenda saying, there's a pro-woman agenda. No, no, no. There's not some pro-woman agenda going on. We are just looking at the process of ending a century-long agenda of keeping everybody else out. We're looking at the ending of an agenda of exclusion that has been around for far too long, and it needs to be stopped. This is also today a Hollywood that needs more diversity. It needs more representation. As Robert Meyer Burnett always says, when you have more diversity and you have more representation, when you have different artists from different backgrounds telling stories, you get richer, better stories. You just do. We need to end that century-old agenda, and we need to see a Hollywood that does have more opportunities for different types of filmmakers and different types of storytellers to give us what we all really long for, new, original, different stories. And we need that, and we do. And it's important that I say all that first and up front. Because I've got to say, I 1000% disagree with what Lulu Wang is saying here. The implied suggestion of what Lulu Wang is saying, and let me just repeat her words again. I don't think these are the artists to grapple with these issues because that's not where they're from. You know, Ron Howard's not Chinese. Ron Howard isn't from there. Ron Howard doesn't get it. That's the implied message of what Lulu Wang is writing. Ron Howard doesn't get it, therefore he should not be directing this. I mean, she goes, I don't believe these are the artists to grapple with this. She's saying Ron Howard's the wrong guy. Why? Because that's not where he's from. That's not his ethnicity. And because that's not where he's from and that's not his ethnicity, he can't possibly understand. And if he can't possibly understand, then he's the wrong guy to tell this story. And I take issue with that on a couple of levels. The first thing I want to point out here is that this whole movie that Ron Howard's going to make is based on the memoirs that Lang Lang wrote himself. This movie's about Lang Lang. This is about him. He wrote it. This whole movie is based on his memoirs. Are we saying that Lang Lang is not the one to stretch out and sketch out the story of his own life? Of course he is. Of course he is. On top of that, Lang Lang, who is also an executive producer on this movie, came out and said the following. This is taken from the Hollywood Reporter. Dream big, work hard, and always believe in yourself. This movie, thanks to Ron Howard's vision, will inspire young people around the world to follow their dreams and never forget they are one in a million. This is Lang Lang, the guy who this movie's about, the guy who wrote the memoirs that is going to be the basis of this movie, who is an executive producer on this thing. This is his words. This thing's going to be great because of Ron Howard's vision. So obviously he's met with Ron Howard and all that kind of stuff. But it brings up a wider issue as well. While I firmly advocate strongly that Hollywood is a place that needs to become a more diverse playground for everybody to come in and get involved and to tell their stories and stuff like that. We need more diversity in our storytellers. We have to have it. I am a strong advocate for all of that. I get accused often of being too much of an advocate for that. Screw off. I don't care. But I also don't think the effective way to do that is to say, because you guys remember a while ago, there was that Scarlett Johansson controversy that she was going to play a transgendered character. And there was this big uproar. You're not transgendered, so you shouldn't be allowed to play that role. I'm like, whoa, 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 time out, time out. I firmly believe that there should be more roles for transgender people in the business and everybody else. But she's one of the greatest actresses in the world. The job of an actor is to play somebody they aren't. That's what an actor does. An actor takes on a role and plays a role of somebody that they aren't actually in real life. That's what an actor does. The job of a director is to tell stories. And some are better suited and a better fit to tell certain stories than others. I'm not saying that's not the case. But let's look at Ron Howard for a second. Let's look at a couple of Ron Howard films, shall we? Ron Howard made a movie called Apollo 13. A movie that my wife and I, Ann, just went to go watch at the drive-in again. And it's fantastic. It's a great movie. But couldn't you say, well, Ron Howard isn't an astronaut. He didn't work for NASA. What does Ron Howard know about the actual space race? What does Ron Howard know about actually being there in Mission Command? What does Ron Howard know about actually being in a capsule that's hurling off towards space? What does Ron Howard know about any of that? Well, Ron Howard's a storyteller. He's there to tell stories. Ron Howard also made a fabulous movie that I completely love called Backdraft. It might be my favorite Ron Howard movie is Backdraft. You go, we go. I love Backdraft. But maybe you could say, well, what the hell does Ron Howard know about being a firefighter? If you're going to make a movie about firefighters and their daily experience and the terror they face and the bravery they have to show, have you ever been a fireman, Ron Howard? Have you ever lived in that environment? Have you ever lived in that situation? Have you ever taken a hose or an axe or an air pack and rushed into a burning building? What do you know about making the Backdraft, Ron Howard? What do you know about it? Well, Ron Howard's a storyteller. So he tells the story, and he told it great, and Backdraft is probably my favorite movie of Ron Howard's. But let's go a little bit different here for a second. Let's take a look at a master filmmaker like Ang Lee. All right, let's look at a master filmmaker like Ang Lee. Born and raised in Taiwan. Right? Later in his life, he moved to the US and did some studying in the US, but born and raised in Taiwan. What was one of the first main films that Ang Lee got a lot of notoriety for, like worldwide recognition for? Sense and Sensibility. An 18th century woman's story taking place in England, told by Jane Austen. What could somebody could ask? What the hell does this guy who's born and raised in Taiwan know about the experiences of being a woman in 18th century England? What on earth could Ang Lee possibly know? I mean, really know about a woman's experience in 18th century England and written by Jane Austen, an English woman? What could he possibly know about that? Well, what was the results? Ang Lee is a master storyteller. Sense and Sensibility got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And it won, I think, one or two of the major awards as well. I think it got nominated for like 6 or 7 awards. And it was nominated for Best Picture, and it really put Ang Lee on the map. No, Ang Lee did not grow up as an 18th century English woman, but he's a master storyteller. That's what master storytellers do. To accentuate that point, let's look at another film by Ang Lee. What does this guy born and raised in Taiwan know about American gay cowboys? I'm talking about Brokeback Mountain. What on earth can this dude born in Taiwan, raised in Taiwan, know about gay cowboys in America? Is he gay? Going on 40 years of marriage with a couple of kids? No? Well, then he won't know how to tell this story. He simply will not know how to do this. He's the wrong guy. What happened? Brokeback Mountain got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Some people feel it should have won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It also had a ton of nominations. Let me bring up the nominations here, because this is an impressive list for Brokeback Mountain. It was nominated, first of all, it won Best Music for the Score. It won Best Screenplay. And Ang Lee won Best Director of the Year that year. And of course, as the director, directing Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal and Michelle Williams, what happened? Well, all of them got nominated. It got nominated for Best Picture. Heath Ledger got nominated for Best Lead Actor. Jake Gyllenhaal got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Michelle Williams got nominated for Best Actress. I mean, that's all that he did. This guy, born and raised in Taiwan, who don't know crap about American gay cowboys, he only went on to direct one of the more celebrated films of that decade. That's what he did. Why? Not because he was born and raised in Taiwan, but because he's a master storyteller. I tell this story a lot, but it's applicable here. When I had Kevin Feige and James Gunn and Chris Pratt in my studio to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, I asked Kevin Feige, I said, what made you comfortable going with this $100+ million film with a director like James Gunn, who has never directed anything but really small, little, lower budget films? What made him the right guy? And Kevin Feige looked at me and said, a good storyteller is a good storyteller. Doesn't matter how big the budget is, doesn't matter what the subject matter is. A good storyteller is a good storyteller. What did Steven Spielberg know about concentration camps? Now you can say, well, his family was Jewish. Okay, so what you're telling me is that Steven Spielberg had people informing him so he could tell the best story he could. Well, that's what great directors do. You don't think Ang Lee brought in some really good consultants to work with him to make sure he was capturing certain aspects right? Of course he did. You don't think Ron Howard probably had a number of real firefighters working with him that he would consult with to make sure he was capturing the proper aspects of what it might be like as a firefighter doing backdraft? Of course he did. Or people with the space program with Apollo 13? Of course he did. And who better to have working with him than Lang Lang himself? And the whole movie's being based on what Lang Lang wrote. And he's there, an executive producer. And of course he's going to be consulting with him every step of the way. And so what do you need? You need somebody who can take all of that and be a master storyteller. Ron Howard, and I don't love every single movie Ron Howard's ever done, but Ron Howard's a master storyteller. So I gotta say, while I super respect Lulu Wang, especially as a filmmaker, and I get where she's coming from, I have to 1000% disagree. Because here's the thing, what are we trying to propose? Are we trying to propose that gay movies that revolve around gay characters, should only be directed by gay people? Are we saying that any movie about a black character should only be directed by black characters? Are we saying that any film with an Asian character should only be directed by an Asian director? Because if we do, then we get endangered with, I don't know, for lack of a better word, we become in danger of creating an entertainment segregation, where it's like, oh, if an Asian person, it's got to be Asian. Because what's the ramification of that? Oh, if it's a movie with a white lead, it's got to be a white director. Of course not. That would be idiotic. Of course we don't want that. So I love the fact that we're getting new movies that focus on black characters, that we're getting new movies focused on Asian characters. And I love the fact that those are opening doors, that we can get black filmmakers an opportunity to get a foot in the door and tell stories, that we get to get Asian filmmakers, like in the case of Shang-Chi, we get to get Asian filmmakers in there too. But I do not believe it should become a question of exclusiveness. Because we're not doing anything to end this stupid century-old agenda of exclusion if all we do is create a new form of exclusion. That is counterproductive. It's counterproductive to what we should be doing and where we should be going. Not setting up a new entertainment segregation where it's like, okay, women can direct women movies. Black directors can direct black movies. And white movies will be directed by white people. There, everybody got their little thing. No, we don't need that. So while if they announced an Asian director for directing Lang Lang, great. I mean, if that opens the door for somebody else to do it, but it should not be exclusively that. I don't think that we should be complaining if a project like Lang Lang's biography being taken over by one of the more celebrated directors of our time should be looked at as a bad thing. I don't believe ending exclusion is helped by creating a new sense of exclusion. I don't believe that Ang Lee should not have directed Brokeback Mountain. I don't believe that he shouldn't have directed Sense and Sensibility. You see what I'm saying? So with all due respect, and I mean that honestly, I'm not being facetious, with all due respect, I 1000% disagree with Lulu Wang. I completely disagree with her. I understand the frustration. I can't relate because I get to be a white guy in this culture. So what do I fully understand? But I still just don't believe that it's productive. I don't believe that attitude is productive in ending this ridiculous century-old agenda of exclusion. And anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I've rambled on about that a lot. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of opinions on this. Anyway, guys, jump down into the comments section below and let me know why I'm wrong. All right, guys. With that down, let's go on to one more final main topic today, and then we'll move on to our live questions. And our final main topic today gets submitted to us by Shane Gibbs. And Shane Gibbs writes, "Hey, John and crew, huge fan, been watching since the AMC days." Oh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. It's always fun to hear people who say they've been watching the show for that long. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you for starting your own channel. With the news breaking of Supergirl Ending, I wanted to get your thoughts, and if you are happy Superman won't be jobbed anymore to her. Thank you, and bring on the filthy. All right. Thanks a lot for sending this in, man. And yes, you guys have probably heard by now that the CW Supergirl show is ending. This comes to us from the folks at Deadline who wrote, Supergirl will be taking her last flight. The CW and producers, so this is the network and the producers, Warner Brothers TV and Berlanti Productions, just announced that the drama series starring Melissa Benoist, I never know if I'm pronouncing her name right. I should, because I think she's a good Canadian girl, will conclude with the upcoming 6th season, set to premiere on the CW in 2021. Between the delays and Supergirl's downward ratings trajectory, it had been taking a beating in its ratings. I hear the producers, the studio, the network, and Benoist came to a decision that it was better to end the show with a longer final season, aka the show got canceled. Whenever the studio and the network are involved, okay, so that means it got canceled, especially with the show where its ratings are declining. Now, contrary to what the popular belief might be, I am not here today to dance on the grave of the Supergirl show. I did not like Supergirl. Just be clear about it. I really hated, first of all, even without the jobbing Superman stuff, the show just wasn't for me. And that's fine. The show just wasn't for me. And I really did hate, and I've gone on ad nauseum, so I won't do it again, but I've always hated the way they turned Superman into a jobber. I thought that was disrespectful, but whatever. The reality is that Supergirl was a fairly important, for a period of time, fairly important show to the CW and the direction that the CW was going. It introduced a new Kryptonian. It was CW's first female-led superhero show. Although you could make an argument that in a lot of ways, White Canary was kind of the lead of Legends of Tomorrow, but still. And it had a very passionate fan base. It may not have had a huge fan base, but the people who watched the show and appreciated it really appreciated it. And it was a show that will have lasted 6 seasons, and not a lot of shows make it to 6 seasons. To me, it's also significant when looking at the issue of, what's the best way to put this? It really is the end of an era of the CW Arrowverse. Because now this is the second show of that kind of first batch that is coming to an end. Obviously, we had Arrow come to an end, which I didn't realize this was going to happen because while I loved the first couple of seasons of Arrow, like passionately, like I was one of the biggest evangelists in the world for Arrow. You guys know that it fell out of favor with me. Like it fell off for me. It lost its way. Captain Buckles notwithstanding, it kind of lost its way to me. Then it had some highs and lows as it went along. But I didn't realize this at the time. My interest in the CW Arrowverse was always kind of founded on my interest in Arrow. And I realized when Arrow ended, a lot of my interest in the Arrowverse ended, even though there was a show like Flash, which I love. I love Flash. But I realized I wasn't racing to watch the next episode of Flash when a new episode would drop. I would get 2 or 3 weeks behind. And I realized, wow, a lot of my enthusiasm about the Arrowverse is gone once the kind of thing that got me into the Arrowverse, Arrow, was done. Even though I didn't love Arrow by the end of it, still, it was that important. And Stephen Amell and his character in that thing had played that kind of an important role to me. And I think now having this second kind of founding show coming to an end, I have a feeling that the experience that I had might be the experience for a lot of other people too. Because like I said, while I am not a fan of Supergirl at all, there are a lot of people who are. And I think I can't help but wonder if for those people who Supergirl for them became their anchor of the CW Arrowverse universe, if they might not have the same experience I had when Arrow ended. And I can't help but wonder if a lot of the people who got introduced into this Arrowverse, got introduced into the CW superhero world through Supergirl, if that might, I don't know, atrophy some of their interest in the CW. I don't know. But I do think it's interesting because Arrow ending, hey, it had a long run, it ended. But now with Supergirl ending, it kind of marks the end of that phase 1, if you want to call that, if we want to use MCU terms. I can't help but wonder if this feels a little bit like the ending of phase 1 of the CW verse with the ending of Supergirl. And you know what? I wasn't a fan of it, but that's fine. There are a lot of people who were. And it's going to be interesting to see how this affects them and their fandom with the CW extended universe as well. Question is, guys, what do you think about them bringing Supergirl to an end? I mean, the ratings kind of dictated it, but hey, it still made it like 6 seasons, and a lot of shows don't do that. What do you think about that? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to your live comments and questions. We've had a bunch of them come in, so we're going to get over and get to those right now. By the way, guys, you can still slip some in. Simply use the tip link that's in the top of the description of this video or enter it manually, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. So let's go over and start seeing what you guys have to say. We're going to start with Joel Guzman, who writes, I love Star Wars, but can't help to think to myself, if Lord of the Rings can win Best Picture, why can't Star Wars? Well, we'll get to that in a second. What would be the perfect storm of things to be in order for Star Wars to win Best Picture? Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars is a friendly debate I often have with my Lord of the Rings friends. Well, I am a Lord of the Rings fan and a Star Wars fan. I'm a fan of both. Yes, I am a Star Wars guy. There's my role-playing game book that I haven't played in a while. I got to get the guys back together to play some Star Wars role-playing games. Anyway, but I'm more of a Star Wars fan. Star Wars was nominated for Best Picture. A lot of people forget the original Star Wars film was actually nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It lost out to another iconic, legendary film in Annie Hall. But yeah, Star Wars was nominated. As far as can a Star Wars movie win Best Picture? Of course it can. Any movie can win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone can win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Absolutely. A Rugrats movie could theoretically win Best Picture at the Oscars. What is the perfect storm? There is no perfect storm. Just make the best movie of the year. It is that easy and that impossible all at the same time. There's no magic formula. You got to make the best film of the year. So you got to start, first of all, by making a great movie. Start by making a great movie. And then hope that the level of greatness that you achieve that year just happens to outpace anybody else, what anybody else did. Listen, there are people who say, oh, the Academy Awards, they just don't like genre stuff. Bullshit. Yes, they do. But they're not going to give nominations to genre stuff just for the sake of giving it to genre stuff. And quite often, the genre stuff doesn't deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. But Star Wars has been nominated. Lord of the Rings, all 3 Lord of the Rings got nominated for Best Picture. Lord of the Rings Return of the King did won 11 Academy Awards. No movie in film history has ever won more Academy Awards than a genre movie, Lord of the Rings Return of the King. We've had Joker nominated for Best Picture. We had Logan nominated for Best Screenplay. We had Black Panther nominated for, I mean, they will nominate it, but it's got to be the best film of the year. And sorry, normally it's not. The genre stuff normally isn't. But there's no magic formula here, Joel. They just got to put out a truly great movie that happens to be better than everything else that came out that year. No magic formula. There's no perfect storm. That's just it. All right. Willow writes, I know there are a lot of other much more important things happening in The Boys right now, but I'm not the only one who kind of wants to see the movie they're shooting right now, Dawn of the Seven. Seriously, Willow, I kid you not, I had the exact same thought. Whenever they're on set and shooting Dawn of the Seven, for those of you who don't watch The Boys, what's going on in season 2, it's just kind of in the background of season 2, is that Vought is producing, because they make movies about all their superheroes. Vought is currently producing a movie, Dawn of the Seven. So obviously a little bit of a play on Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. But Dawn of the Seven is a movie they're making in there. And I kid you not, I had the exact same thought you did. I would love to see that actual movie. Whatever it ends up being, I want to see it. All right, an anonymous viewer writes in, greetings and salutations, John and Co. My question today revolves around whether we could one day see an Arthas Menethil trilogy. He's like one of the central figures in the World of Warcraft. Hit the big screen. I believe his tragic story could really captivate audiences should Legendary continue on with the World of Warcraft universe. I mean, look, whenever you ask a question that involves can or the word could, the answer is always yes. Can this happen? Could this happen? The answer is always yes. Now, how likely is it? Well, that's a different story. Here's the thing, anonymous viewer. Now, I'm a big World of Warcraft guy. I've played more years of my life have been spent playing World of Warcraft than I should even admit. But the thing is, every fan of everything thinks the thing that they're a fan of would make a world-class movie, right? Every fan of every piece of anime thinks that the anime that they love would make the most epic movie. Every fan of a video game thinks that their video game would make the most epic movie. Every fan of every whatever. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we as fans do, right? That's what we as fans do. I do it too. You do it too, whoever you are watching. We all do that. I don't know that the story of Arthas, I mean, the epicness of becoming the Lich King and whatever, but I don't know that the story of Arthas would resonate with a lot of people who aren't doctrinated with World of Warcraft. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know that it would. I know I love it, but I genuinely don't know that people who aren't immersed in World of Warcraft would find it all that great. And I say I don't know, literally. I'm not saying that means no, they wouldn't. I'm saying I don't have an inkling about whether they would or not. So, I mean, I would be interested. You would be interested. I think there's a lot of World of Warcraft veterans who would be interested in that. But would the general movie-going audience? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's true. But could it happen? Sure. I mean, we've heard that there have been whispers about Legendary coming back and trying World of Warcraft again. And if so, that could be the direction they go. I doubt it, though. I doubt it. But it would be interesting. I mean, hey, I'd be down for it. I'd totally be down for it. All right. Ricky Reneker writes, hey, John, I've seen Words on Bathroom Walls in theaters last week, and it's now my favorite movie of the year, and it's now in my top 10 favorite movies of all time because the main characters suffer from schizophrenia, and I suffer from it too. Well, listen, Ricky, one of the beautiful things about movies, something really beautiful happens in a movie theater when a movie, a piece of art, can speak directly to yours or my experience. I remember when, and this sounds like a silly comparison, but follow me. I remember when Clerks 2 came out. And, donkey show and everything aside, the underlying theme of that movie was about one of the two best friends contemplating moving away for a job and moving away from his best friend, from his life, all that kind of stuff for a job. And one of the reasons why Clerks 2 is so special to me, besides the fact that it's just a really fun, funny movie. I mean, to me, it's my favorite Kevin Smith film. But one of the reasons that movie means so much to me is because when I saw that movie, I was in the midst of that same dilemma. I had a career option that presented itself to me, but it would require me moving away from people and that I had began to consider family and moving away from them. And it was tough. And because I felt like that piece of art, that movie was speaking directly to my experience, it creates a very special bond with it. And when a piece of art can do that for you, like Words on Bathroom Walls, which is about a kid in high school, meets a girl. Anyway, they can do that. Now, I myself have not seen the movie yet. It is tough because I don't have any movie theaters open around me. If I want to go see a movie, I have to make a 45-minute drive out to Anaheim. And I'll do that for Tenet. I would do that for an X-Men movie like New Mutants. I would do that for Black Widow. But I'm not sure I'd do it for one of the smaller, more indie films. But I've been hearing great things about it. So I just may have to get my ass into my car and drive out to Anaheim to go see it, because I am hearing from you and others that some really good things about it. All right. Ricky Reneker also writes, if you haven't seen Words on Bathroom Walls yet, please watch it. I highly recommend it. Again, you're not the only one. I think it's got like an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes as well. I'm hearing really good things about it. I just may have to go check that out. All right. Ian McAllister writes, hey, John, I read on Instagram from the incredible and perfect Melissa Benoist, CW Supergirl, that the show is ending after the next season. Obviously, this was written before the show started. This bummed me out since I just discovered the show and gave it a chance. Can't recommend it enough. Give it a go. Well, I mean, look, everybody else knows I hate that show. I just do not like that show. I tried even before they turn Superman into a jobber. It wasn't for me. The show's not for me. But that's not to take away other people's enjoyment. There are a lot of people who do like that show, and that's great. And you watched it. And I always celebrate when somebody finds a piece of art, whether it's a movie or a TV show, even if it's one I don't like, and they get joy out of it. I love that. Even if it's something I don't like. But yeah, I have given the show a go, and it just is not for me. But that aside, I'm glad you did. And hey, listen, celebrate that you had a chance to discover it before it came to an end. So just celebrate that. And anyway, that's my thoughts on it. All right. Nexus writes, don't you think there's at least a slim chance that Zack Snyder's Justice League could turn heads of some critics that weren't fans before? I know these two YouTubers don't represent all critics, but Jeremy Jahns recently adjusted his opinion of Batman vs. Superman after watching the Ultimate Edition, and Dan Murrell, after watching Snyder Cut trailer, seemed more open to the idea of seeing these characters go through the arcs that Zack Snyder had in mind for them. Can you imagine a world where Zack Snyder Justice League had better critical reception than his previous work? All right. Again, this comes down to could versus likelihood. Could Zack Snyder's Justice League come out and win everybody over? All the people who saw Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, all the people who saw Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman, all the people who have seen Zack Snyder's take on the DCU before and hated it, could this Zack Snyder take on the DC universe completely win everybody over? It could. It absolutely could. Like I said, Rugrats movie could come out and it could win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. The question isn't could, because the answer to that is always yes. Yes, it could. The question is, how likely is it? I just find it unlikely. And I say that as somebody who has been trying for years, as an individual who has tried for years to get people to better understand and appreciate Zack Snyder's first DCU movie, Man of Steel. I have tried for years to get people to better understand and better appreciate that movie. As somebody who has worked tirelessly for years to try to get people to better understand and better appreciate that movie, I can tell you it is a tough road. Because there are a lot of people who simply do not like his take on the universe. I think Man of Steel is a masterpiece of the genre, of the comic book genre. I think it's the most underrated comic book film of all time. But most people I have not been able to sway. Most people I have not been able to sway. Whenever I bring up Man of Steel and say how much I love it, inevitably, tons of comments. Man of Steel sucks. And hey, it's all subjective, and I respect that. But the thing is, why would I expect that Zack Snyder's take on the DCEU is going to be so radically different than what he gave us in Man of Steel, and so radically different of a take than what he gave us in Batman vs. Superman, that all of a sudden people who don't like his take on it are suddenly magically going to like it now? I think that's unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. So we'll see. Now, that's not me saying I think it's unlikely that's going to be good. I think Man of Steel is great. What we're talking about is, are the people who don't like Zack Snyder's DCEU stuff suddenly and magically going to like it? I think that's unlikely. I think I'll like it because I've liked everything Zack Snyder has done in the DCEU. I love Man of Steel. I really like Batman versus Superman. I even enjoyed however much of Justice League theatrical cut was his. I even like Justice League. I like Justice League, even the theatrical one. So I'm excited to see what kind of different thing. I hope we get more of the Batman that we got in Batman versus Superman. But is it likely and is it realistic to expect that other people who have seen the same stuff that you and I have seen and who hated it are magically going to like it now? That's a tall order. It's a tall order. I think those people who already like Zack Snyder's stuff are going to love it. I think that's a foregone conclusion. It could be the worst film in the world, and Zack Snyder fans are going to say it's a masterpiece, but that's what fans do, right? We all do that. But I think there's a high probability I'll like it because I like his other stuff. But I think there's a limited probability that people who have hated Zack Snyder's DCU stuff are magically now going to like it. It might be good, but that doesn't mean Man of Steel is great, but there's still a ton of people that hate it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But is it possible? It's possible. All right, next up. Double Crit writes, hey, John, a little off topic, but I know you're a gamer, so just wondering if you're leaning towards a PS5 versus Xbox Gen 4, or maybe you don't want either. For me, it's PS5 because it has exclusive games, while anything on Xbox will be available on my PC. Double Crit, you just completely 100% nailed it. I have no need to get an Xbox. Because any games that by the way, I am very seriously thinking about getting that Xbox Game Pass where you can just buy the games and play them on your PC. I can just do that. I am interested in the PS5. I got the PS4. I chose between the PS4 and the Xbox on the basis of, like you said, the exclusives. Last of Us was only on PlayStation 4. God of War was only on PS4. Like, big exclusive after big exclusive seemed to only live on the PS4. And now it just saw this ad for that new Harry Potter game. And listen, I'm no Potterhead, but that Harry Potter game looked pretty awesome. And it got my wife excited. So, by the way, the choice isn't even mine now. My wife will decide for us to get the PS5 because my wife wants to play that Potter game. I believe that's a PS5 exclusive. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it's a PlayStation exclusive. So my wife will make the decision for us anyway, but that's probably the one I would go. So personally, I'll probably go PS5. Okay. Dwayne Jackson writes, hello, John and friends. I was wondering if another economic crash happens, can movie theaters survive round 2 of the onslaught that might be coming? If so, will studios come and try to save them and do whatever it takes, or is the damage already done? I was talking about that a little bit earlier when Black Widow came up, and that Black Widow's been pushed another 6 months. And, this harkens back to a topic we discussed here on the show the other day. What good is it for the movie theaters to be open if no new movies, no big movies are there to bring in the audiences to see them? Even a movie, here's the thing, even other movies will suffer. Like, look at a movie like Words on Bathroom Walls that we just talked about, right? People go to the movies for the big movies. And they go and they're in that theater, then they see the posters for these other movies that are playing there, like Words on Bathroom Walls or whatever. They see a trailer for it. They have a good time at the movies and they think, I want to come back to the movies again because I just had a good time at the movies. And you know what? That one looked pretty good. Let's go. So I think even these smaller films are going to suffer because they don't have bigger films there bringing the audiences into the theaters. So I think it's very problematic. Now, I've said from a long time, since the beginning of the pandemic, I believe it is in the movie studio's best interest to do whatever they can do to make sure the theaters stay in business, because that's where the vast majority of their money comes from. But it's interesting time. So I don't know. And by the way, the thing is, movie studios are getting tight on money too. Movie studios are losing money hand over fist right now. So it's not just the theaters that are hurting, the studios are hurting. It is those box office dollars that pays for everything else they do. And they're not getting those box office dollars now. So it's going to be tough for everybody, Dwayne. I am very, very worried about not just the future of the theatrical industry, but of the studio industry as well. This is going to have ramifications very long reaching. All right, next up, Dark Knight Rises writes, one of two. Hey, John, I'm thinking of the movie with the best overall cast. A Bridge Too Far from 19... That was a good one. Comes to mind Connery, Redford, Hackman, Kane, Hopkins, Oliver, Kane and Gould, a Canadian kid, I should remember his name properly. Others are The Firm. The Firm had a great one as well. Godfather, any of the Batman trilogy, All the President's Men and JFK, though some were cameos, also come up. What's your opinion of the greatest cast ever assembled for a film? All right, so this is very, very similar to a question that somebody else raised not long ago here on the show. Somebody else basically asked me the same question, and I'll tell you exactly what I told them. When I think of the best casts, my mind doesn't go to which cast had the biggest collection of big names, right? That's not where my mind goes. My mind goes, what cast was so perfectly selected and so perfectly worked together and had incredible chemistry throughout that it really just took me along. And for me, that goes to the Lord of the Rings films. The Lord of the Rings cast is brilliant. It's brilliant. Every one of those roles was perfectly selected. Even if some of them were their second choice, right? Because Viggo Mortensen was not the first choice to play Strider. They had gotten somebody else. And then a little bit into filming, they went, nah, this isn't working. Go get Viggo Mortensen. And then they brought him in. By the way, Gandalf. Magneto wasn't supposed to play Gandalf. Ian McKellen was not going to be Gandalf. They wanted Sean Connery. And they tried to get Sean Connery to do it. Connery wouldn't do it. I think a part of it was the fact that he just thought people wouldn't get it, and he decided instead to do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is a movie that the CGI company that I worked with, we actually worked on that movie. We worked on the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's awful. That movie's terrible. But yeah, so even if some of their cast picks weren't their first picks, it ended up being perfect. And the way each character had chemistry with the other was unbelievable. And one of the key reasons why I think The Lord of the Rings, it wasn't how the badass design of the orcs, and it wasn't the great battle scenes, although those are all great. To me, the real magic of Lord of the Rings happens in the chemistry between the characters. All of them. And to me, when I think of some of the best casts assembled, that's why my mind instantly goes to Lord of the Rings. It really does. So anyway, that's just me. Thanks for that, Dark Knight. All right. Let's see here. Where are we at? Dallas writes, hey, John, I was wondering how many of the Falcon Eyes F7 pocket lights you have in the background. I was looking into purchasing some and was wondering how many you have lighting up your background. They add a lot to your background. You know what? Thank you for mentioning that, because I just noticed I forgot to turn my on before the show started. I forgot. Here, let me reach down and turn it on right now. Let's see here. There we go. Woo, there it is. I forgot to turn that light on before the show started. So to answer your question, how many of these do I have? Now, you guys will notice down in the description, see how much of the light it creates. You guys probably saw down in the description of the video, I have a list of all the gear that I use if you guys are interested. And the pocket light, the F7 pocket light is one of them. It's only about this, like the size, about this big, about the size of a cell phone, the size of a really, really big cell phone. And it's small, whatever. It can do lots of different colors, all that kind of stuff. My whole background is literally lit up with just one. I mean, you see, it goes all the way from here, all the way across. It's casting its light. It's honestly just one little device casting all that light. So really, it's just one of them. I can't remember how much I paid for it. Again, go down into the links in the description of this video. You'll find a link to it where you can go and see it on Amazon. You can see the price. But yeah, I only need one to do the entire background. One just does the job, and I'm really, really happy with it. Thanks for asking. I love tech questions. I love it when people write in technical questions. All right, next up. Caleb writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob is not here today. What's your favorite non-comic book superhero movie and favorite non-superhero comic book / graphic novel movie? Mine are Unbreakable and Road to Perdition, respectively. Thanks and have a great day. Yeah, Road to Perdition's great. I would probably have to go to 300. Speaking of Zack Snyder, I'd probably have to go to 300. There's a few others that are based on like non-superhero but graphic novels as well, but the one that comes to mind pardon me, is 300. As far as the one that's superhero movies that aren't comic book based, Unbreakable is hard to go against. Unbreakable is hard to go. I had to think about that. I mean, the other one that I come up with a lot is Hancock. Will Smith's Hancock. The ending of Hancock is a little weak. I'll give you that. The ending of Hancock is a little weak. But aside from the ending, like the last 20 minutes of the movie, I thought Hancock was really great. Oh, you know what? No, take all that out. The best superhero that's not comic book based, one for me has got to be Incredibles. The Incredibles. But let me make sure I'm reading it. What is your favorite non-comic book superhero? Yeah, The Incredibles. There, that ends at The Incredibles. The Incredibles is the best non-comic book based superhero movie. The Incredibles. I love Unbreakable. I clearly love Hancock. There are by the way, what's the name of it? Josh Trank's movie, Chronicle with Michael B. Jordan. Chronicle, awesome. Love that movie. If you have not seen Chronicle, watch Chronicle. It's amazing. But yeah, I'm going to go with The Incredibles. The Incredibles is mine. All right, let's move on here. Next up, I Run to Places writes, hey, John, been listening to you since the Collider days. Oh, thanks so much, man. I am a kindergarten to grade 8 drama teacher in Kansas. I love Kansas. I used to go out there a couple times a year when I used to work for AMC because AMC's head offices are out there and they would fly me out there. But and COVID has made teaching extremely difficult. Half of my students are online, half are in the actual classroom. Stressful. But as you said multiple times, this is a temporary problem. Looking forward to having my students on stage again someday soon. Maybe you'll review their performances in a future film. Thank you for all you do for the movie fan community. Dude, listen, thank you for being a teacher. You know, somebody else wrote in the other day mentioning that they're a teacher. Teachers, like, I don't know why other cultures get it. Other cultures know to really respect the profession of teaching. Here, it's horrible. It's horrible, the lack of respect that teachers get here. It's absolutely crazy. But anyway, teachers deserve more respect. Thank you for being a teacher. Thank you for being a teacher. You know, some of the most influential people in my life have been teachers I've had along the way in my life. So thank you for being a teacher. And here's hoping that this is a more temporary problem than not. So I hope we get over this stuff soon, man. I really do. And thank you again. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, 1 of 2. I just caught up with Cobra Kai. I am a karate black belt, meaning that I'm the... Oops, sorry, we just had a bit of a jump here. Let me see if I can get back and find where we're at. All right, here we go. I just caught up with Cobra Kai. I'm a karate black belt, meaning I am the toughest possible audience for a show like this. And I indeed say that all the dojo stuff is absolutely BS. That would never actually happen. Just imagine the lawsuits alone. Like I've been in those environments. I know that that's BS. But despite that, season 1 had enough going for it to pull me through. And then it became truly great in season 2. The montage with the show must go on, especially, is fantastic and a huge emotional gut punch. Yeah, I don't like the show. And I say that knowing that I am in the vast minority. I do not like Cobra Kai. When it was about to come out, I was amongst the most excited people. I was so excited for the show. I think it's a great concept. Look at these characters many years later, but telling it from the perspective of the other guy, from Johnny's side. I thought it's such a great idea. And I watched the first 3 episodes with Ann and Corey, and I just did not like it, like, at all. But Ann and Corey, like, I still see a lot of Cobra Kai because Ann's been going through all the episodes. So they're still on TV. And I watched it for a bit with her because I want to sit with my wife. I watch it for a bit with her and I'm just constantly rolling my eyes. But listen, I understand I am in the minority. I understand that this show, for whatever reason, it's all subjective, works really well for a lot of people. And that's awesome. That's great. I celebrate that. I really do. But it's just not for me. Now, again, you guys know I am always honest with you with my opinions, even when it's the unpopular one. Of course, I have the temptation to say, well, everybody loves Cobra Kai. So I'll say I love Cobra Kai too, but I can never be dishonest with you guys. I don't like Cobra Kai. And I know that makes me the unpopular kid in class, but it is what it is. I have to be honest with you guys. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. My wife is loving it, by the way. My wife likes it a lot. But yeah, it doesn't really work for me. All right. Richard Ganther writes, regarding Solo, a Star Wars story, I recall the days of picking up the latest expanded universe novel from my local Walden's bookstore. I often argue that had an EU novel with the same plot of the film been titled Solo, everyone would have loved it. Thoughts? No, I agree. No. If you take the exact same story of Solo, a Star Wars story, but it came out in the era of the EU novels, Star Wars fans would have loved it. I contend that, speaking of Ron Howard, I thought Ron Howard did an extraordinary job taking that film and basically salvaging it and giving us a really good look. Do I like it as much as Rogue One? No. Do I like it as much as The Force Awakens? No. Does it compare to the original trilogy? No. But Star Wars, Solo, a Star Wars story is a really fun space adventure movie. I was really entertained by it. I mean, even Rob, and Rob is not a big fan of the new Star Wars stuff, but even Rob quite enjoys Solo Star. It's just a really good, fun movie. And it's a good one. And yes, I completely agree. I think had it put out in the EU days, I think people would have said they loved it. But, you know, we can't prove that, but that's just what I kind of believe. Thanks for that, Richard. All right, Adam M. writes, hey, John, longtime listener. I am a concept artist working in films at Weta Workshop, and I love listening to you and your guests discuss all the movies while at work. Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you for that. Got inspired seeing your documentary poster and sent you my own version. Oh, no, I've seen it. Yeah, so I sent you my own version on Instagram. Thanks. Keep up the goodness. Dude, no, thank you for that. I saw that. It's that's the one with the film reel can, right? I did see that. Thank you for sending that. It's really cool. So I love it when people who watch the show send me like bits of art, and sometimes I'll highlight it on the show. Sometimes I don't, but I always get a big kick and a real thrill when people send me that stuff. And I saw that and I thought it was a really cool concept. Now, you haven't seen my movie. So you don't realize that although it was a very cool, what he did was he took like this old Kodak film reel and like replaced the label with Movie Trailers, A Love Story, which is the name of my upcoming documentary. Now, and it's great. Now, you haven't seen the movie, so you don't know that that doesn't really fit my movie. If you see the movie, if you will do me the honor of watching my movie when it's out and available, you'll see that. But just throwing up just a random poster like that, I thought it's like some people's talent just amazes me. So thank you so much. I really appreciated getting that, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. All right. Listen, next up, Dark Knight. I got something caught in my throat. I don't know what it is. Anyway, Dark Knight Rises writes, hi, John. Curious about the, hold on, I'm just going to adjust the size of this. There we go. Curious about the Canadian film industry. What are some top Canadian films? Who would be the Canadian version of Daniel Day-Lewis or De Niro, Meryl Streep, etc.? I know Adam Agoyan and David Cronenberg come to mind as far as top directors. Thanks. Listen, I'll be honest with you. To my extreme shame, ever since I moved to LA, I'm not really well connected in with what's going on in the Canadian film scene. I'm really not. I mean, one of the best pure Canadian films I've seen in a long time was Good Cop, Bond Cop. If you hadn't seen that one, you should. It's really quite good. And then, you know, Bob and Doug McKenzie. But if you want to talk about like, who are the big Canadians, like as filmmakers go? Well, listen, one of the best filmmakers in the world right now, Denis Villeneuve, right? Canadian. James Cameron making his new Avatar films, Canadian. You already mentioned Cronenberg, and there are many others. There are many others. As far as the film world goes, I mean, hell, you're looking at Donald Sutherland. If you're talking about the De Niro Pacino, like Donald Sutherland and Christopher Plummer, right? If you want to talk more modern, I mean, William Shatner, if you want to go classic, William Shatner, Lorne Greene. But if you want to talk like more modern day, like some of the biggest stars in Hollywood today are Canadian. Obviously, Ryan Reynolds, another Ryan Gosling, who grew up just like 45 minutes up the road from where I grew up. On the actress side, you know, kind of connected with Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams is one of the biggest stars in the world. So yes, as you're watching The Notebook, you might as well call it a Canadian film, although it's not a Canadian film, but you had a good Canadian duo in there. So lots and lots and lots of talent behind and in front of the screen. But again, to my shame, I'm not really plugged in on the actual films being produced and made in Canada by Canadian companies. I just haven't been able to keep up to date with that. And again, that is to my great shame, because I am very much a very proud Canadian. And I'll always want to point out and call out the good Canadian stuff that comes out. Anyway, hope that was a little bit helpful, Dark Knight. Let's see here. Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hi, John and Rob. So over under 2% we ever get a Joker caliber film of the tragic downfall of Mitchell oh, isn't that Kite Man? AKA the Sultan of Sauce, known as the Condiment King, the guy, yeah, the Kite Man's guy. I'd also relish the chance to see a cameo of Kite Man. It would make fans catch up with the HQ show. There is so much that is great about the Harley Quinn animated show. But honestly, Kite Man's nemesis, the Condiment King, I don't know why, but I find is like one of the most hilarious aspects of that show. And he only pops up now and again, particularly like as they're trying to book the wedding venue. Condiment King with his condiment quips. You know, I relish the... I mean, it's gold. It's gold. If you guys, again, let me take this opportunity to jump on Mandalorian's comment here. If you have not started watching Harley Quinn, please do. It is delightful. It'll make you laugh. You'll be entertained. It's fantastic. Do check it out. All right. Wakandan Forever writes, parody characters. All right, here we go. Parody character. Number 1, Austin Powers. 2, Dark Helmet. I would put Dark Helmet number 1, but 3, Dr. Lazarus / Alexander Dane. Number 4, Darkwing Duck. Number 5, Mighty Mouse. Number 6, Meteor Man. Number 7, Johnny English. Number 8, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Number 9, Spider-Ham. Number 10, Detective Frank Drebin from why am I forgetting the name? Frank Drebin. Dragnet? Yeah, Dragnet. John, who's your favorite Spaceballs character? Oh, Dark Helmet. Yeah. I mean, they're all good. Lone Star's good. Barf is good. I mean, they're all great. You know, Pizza the Hut. They're all wonderful. But yeah, Dark Helmet. Rick Moranis, dude. Yes, 100% Spaceballs all day. All right. Gino97 writes, hey guys, I saw The Devil All the Time, which I've still not watched, which it's available now. And Ann and I were talking about watching that soon, but I just haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it yet. I saw Devil All the Time. I like a lot the movie, especially Tom Holland's performance. It had mixed reviews. I get it because the subject is not fun, but surprised me how popular the movie. It's been number 1 worldwide among Netflix viewers. Yeah, what is number 1 and the top 10 on Netflix? I've literally seen it change hour to hour. Like, it's crazy. Like the other day I was on there and that new, what's it called? Away? I think it's called Away. That was number 1. Then I saw that video game documentary series was number 1. Then I saw Legend of Korra was number 1. And obviously Lucifer was number 1 on it for a long time. But this is one I do want to see. I mean, it's Tom Holland. It's Robert Pattinson, I should say. You got Spider-Man and the new Batman in it. So yeah, it's going to get a lot of attention. I'm probably going to try to sit down and watch it today. The main reason I haven't watched it yet is, 1, I have a natural built-in skepticism about Netflix original movies. But on top of that, the trailer I just found, quite frankly, boring. I didn't like the trailer. But it does got a few people that I love involved in it. Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland. So I'm going to think maybe today, try to sit down and watch that. Anyway, thanks for giving the recommendation on that, Gino. All right. Next up, we've got Double Crit, who writes, I just saw Get On Up, my favorite Chadwick Boseman performance. And Boseman's performance is definitely top tier, but I honestly would have preferred a decent actor who looked more like James Brown. I think for me, biopics are the rare exception where I care less about the actor's skill versus their look. One of the best examples in recent memory was All Eyes on Me. Oh, that was terrible. Starring Demetrius Shipp Jr. as Tupac. That did no justice to Tupac's legacy at all, I didn't think. But anyway, ideally you get a great actor who also looks the part, i.e. Jamie Foxx as Ray. But if you had to pick one or the other, which do you prefer? Always talent. Look is bullshit. Look matters zero. Look matters zero comparatively to the talent of the performer. Because a good performer, it instantly makes it irrelevant. It instantly makes it irrelevant whether or not they look just like the actual person did. Rami Malek did not look like Freddie. I mean, they made him up as well as they could with all the makeup and everything to look as close to Freddie as they could. But if you look at an old picture of Freddie Mercury next to a picture of Rami Malek, just a natural, normal picture, they don't look anything alike. But irrelevant. He played the role. That's the important thing. That's the important thing. Whether they look like them or not is nothing. That'll get you for a second. Like if they look like the person, that'll get you for a second. Oh, cool. Like, wow, it looks just like them. I think it's practically him. But if they can't perform, I will always take 10% more talent over 30% looks more like the character. Like if there's a 1% different talent difference between a guy who looks 100% like the character they're playing and looks barely like the character they're playing, but the talent difference between them is like a 1% difference, okay, go the 100% that a guy looks like him. But other than an extreme situation like that, for me personally, Double Crit, I gotta say talent always. Talent always is the thing I go for. Now, of course, if somebody's playing Danny DeVito, right? If they do a biopic on the career of Danny DeVito and what a career he's had, but if somebody were to do a doc on Danny DeVito, well, listen, Danny DeVito's stature is an important part of who he is as a person. So you don't want to go out and get a 6'3" guy to play Danny DeVito because that doesn't fit. That doesn't work with the character. That's just contrary to the character of who he is. So that'd be different. So it's always within certain reasonable parameters, yes. But understanding that as long as we're within reasonable parameters, always talent. 100% for me, always talent. And you can say that Jamie Foxx looks like, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Not at all. Look at old pictures of actual Ray Charles beside pictures of, without makeup and everything, of Jamie Foxx. They do not look similar at all. They're both black. Great, but they don't look similar at all. So what they did is when I've got a great actor, they did what they could with makeup and whatever to make him look as similar as possible. But after that, it's the talent of Jamie Foxx that carries that across the thing. That's what made it work. Now, what got him an Academy Award was not looking like Ray Charles. It was his acting performance that got it. So to me, that's always it. Double Crit. I mean, all day, every day, twice on Sundays. For me, it's always talent. All right, David writes, hey, John, I remember you would say something like any actor could play any role as long as they are talented and if race wasn't critical for the role, i.e. Black Panther. Does that same thinking also apply to directors and screenwriters? Well, I mean, here's the thing. The actors and screenwriters aren't on screen. To me, and we went over this ad nauseum with the Lulu Wang and Ron Howard thing, it's all about, is somebody a great storyteller? And storytellers tell stories that aren't from their own experience quite often. Ron Howard telling a story about the space program in Apollo 13. Ang Lee telling the story of gay American cowboys in Brokeback Mountain. That's what great storytellers do. So while I believe there is some limitation as far as actors who are on screen, because there sometimes are characters whose physical characteristics are essential core elements to who and what those characters are, that's a visible thing. Behind the camera, no. I think, one or another could be more appropriate to it. Sure, sometimes, but listen, a great storyteller is a great storyteller. It's just that simple. Now, sometimes storytellers will want to bring on, but look, every director should always have some consultants around them to talk about the subject matter of what they're doing. They should do their research. They should surround themselves, get some people who are good consultants to consult them of them, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Every director should do that. But then you need somebody who's got that skill to now tell the story. And knowing the story doesn't mean you are the best person to tell the story. So yeah, I just believe in talent. I just absolutely believe in talent. Ricky writes, "Hey John, I'm turning 20 today. Happy birthday, Ricky. May you have a glorious day and a glorious year ahead of you, my friend. I'm turning 20 today. Been watching your stuff since I was 13. Thanks for giving me a bigger appreciation for film. Love all that you do." Dude, thank you so much for writing in. And again, may you have a fabulous birthday today, my friend. And I'm quite honored that you allow us to be a part of your birthday today. So thank you for that. And may you have a great one, Ricky. All right, next up, Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, just want to say glad Thoughts on Walks is back in whatever capacity that may be. Tackling the Marvel situation did us all a solid because I'm sure most of us had those same concerns. For those of you who are not aware, I did for the first time since the pandemic started. Let me see if I can bring it up here. For the first time since the pandemic started, we actually did our first Thoughts on Walks. We did our first Thoughts on Walks. I'll bring it up here in ages. And as you see, I had my mask. You can see that there's nobody around me. Whenever I was within like 50 feet of other people, I would bring my mask up. But when I had absolutely nobody around me, I had the mask down. But I decided to restart Thoughts on Walks. And we started with something I've been thinking about a lot that I called the 6 challenges facing the MCU right now coming out of the pandemic. And that is a video that I put together. And we put it up yesterday. And I'm glad it's back too. I really do enjoy doing Thoughts on Walks. And so I'm glad it is back. So thank you for watching it. I appreciate that you took time out to watch it. And if any of you guys are interested, just go to the front page of my YouTube channel and scroll down. You see Thoughts on Walks and you'll see the new one there. And I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for that, Russell. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to plug it a little bit there. I appreciate that. Eric Huffman writes, "Today is the 20-year anniversary of What? The 20th anniversary of Remember the Titans. What a stacked cast that was. Do you think the movie still holds up after 2 decades?" You know, it's funny you asked that because I think it was about maybe 2 months ago. Let me just bring this up here. It was about 2 months ago that Ann and we had just finished watching something on TV and it was late and Ann fell asleep on the couch. And something else was coming on. And it was Remember the Titans. I'm like, oh, wow, I haven't watched this in forever. I hadn't watched that in like 15 years. And I'm just going to put it on. I'll just stay up. I'll just stay up and watch this. And I was floored. Denzel Washington, Will Patton, Ryan Hurst, from Sons of Anarchy. I had totally forgotten that Ryan Hurst was one of the main guys in that. Donald Faison was in that. Hayden Panettiere, who was, of course, the cheerleader in Heroes, she was in it. Ryan Gosling was in it. It just was, you forget how many people were in that. Does it hold up today? 1,000% Remember the Titans holds up today. 1,000% it does. I was floored. I mean, I was watching that and I was as into it watching it today as I was the last time I saw it, which was like 15 years ago. So yeah, I 100%. 20-year anniversary. Is it actually the 20-year anniversary? Okay, so this week is a 20 years, because it says here on IMDb, its official release date was September 29th. So I think officially the anniversary is in a couple of days. But yeah, Remember the Titans. Let me bring it up here. Remember the Titans is wonderful. And you don't have to be a sports fan to watch it. It has very, very little to do with sports, really. But so you absolutely do not need to be a sports fan in order to watch and appreciate this movie. It is great, and I absolutely 100% think it holds up. Thanks for sharing that, Eric. All right, Jesse Swift writes, "Hey, John, fan since before the Man of Steel review." Well, thank you so much, man. "I enjoyed and agreed with your Marvel Concerns video." That was the Thoughts on Walks. "However, you mentioned that..." a WandaVision trailer didn't get the same pop we've come to expect. I just read that it broke a streaming show record of 55 million views in 24 hours. Not bad. Irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. People watching a trailer does not equal pop, and it doesn't equal excitement. And by the way, like I had a few people write into me because one of the things I mentioned in Thoughts on Walks was that one of the repercussions probably of the fact that we're in the pandemic and you know, in post Endgame hangover, one of the things that I mentioned was if that excellent WandaVision trailer had come out pre-Endgame, I think the internet would have gone bananas over it. I think that everybody would be buzzing about it. But everybody talked about it for a minute and then it's been gone. I sensed no big excitement from tons of people. Like I was excited for it. And you watched me watch the show yesterday. I was like, oh my God, this trailer's great. But I didn't see anywhere near the excitement. Anywhere near the excitement. Yeah, people went and watched the trailer. But from all the emails I got in, listen, ask me how many people wrote to me about the WandaVision trailer within 24 hours after it came out. Now, I get hundreds of submissions a day. I am not being facetious when I tell you that the grand total number of people who wrote into me about the WandaVision trailer, other than John, a WandaVision trailer is out. Other than that, this is how many people wrote into me about it. None. None. When the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer would come out, I had people write, I would have tons of people writing me for days after the trailer would come out, talking about the trailer and blah, blah, blah. I got nothing. Nothing. And yeah, while that's great that 55 million people viewed the trailer, guess what? That's less. Put this in context. That is less than 1/3 of the people who watched the Mulan trailer when the Mulan trailer dropped. I believe, I might be off by a little bit, but I believe the number of people who watched the Mulan trailer when the first Mulan trailer dropped, I believe it had like something like 170 million views in the first 24 hours. So put it in context. This is less than 1/3 of that. And it's an MCU thing. It's a character from Endgame and Infinity War. And I got no excitement from it. I mean, I got excitement for it, but I'm seeing no huge pop like we would have gotten before if this trailer had come out before. And that's my point. It doesn't matter how many people watched it. Do you know how many people watched the 50 Shades of Grey trailer in the first 24 hours? A lot. It actually broke the record at one time. But does that mean people were excited about 50 Shades of Grey? Did that mean people? No. Yeah, a lot of people went to go watch the trailer, but I heard no pop for it afterwards. I just did not see nearly the same excitement level as we would have gotten for an MCU trailer, be it for Disney Plus or otherwise, 6 months ago or a year ago. And that was kind of the point that I was making. The fact that people watch the trailer doesn't really mean anything. So, but I appreciate your input, Jesse, because you're not the first person to point that out either. You're not the first person to point that out. Let's see here. Next up, we've got Priera Nicholas writes, I'm sick of this propaganda that Hollywood has been trying to force on us for a few years. Give more chances to actors coming from ethnic and sexual minorities. As a black dude, I have no problem with that, obviously. But stop trying to put my head that because I'm black, I must feel more concerned with the film on the pretext that the director or the main actor is black. It's just leftist racism. I mean, I don't think that's true. Listen. There has been, we all know this, I'm just stating the obvious, right? I'm not teaching anybody anything new here. This is something we all know. There has been a active and aggressive agenda of exclusion for a century. For a century. That's been going on. What we see today is now an active movement to tear that agenda down. Because listen, inconvenient truth. The MCU, Like, I get all these brain dead morons write to me and say, well, MCU's all woke now. You know, if you ever use the term woke, that generally tells me you're half brain dead, probably half brain dead at minimum. But MCU's all woke now. And I go, what? You know that the MCU made over 20 movies before they had one with a female lead. One. It took them 20 plus movies to have one with the female lead. They made over 20 plus movies in the MCU before they made one with a black lead. One. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that MCU is racist and MCU had that exclusion agenda, but what I'm saying is, I can't help but laugh at people, like hysterically laugh at people, when they talk about MCU having a big agenda when, okay, let's look at the facts. Okay, here we are. MCU has made over 20 white male-led movies. They made one that had a black lead and one so far that's had a female lead. Tell me again how, and now moving forward, we're seeing a mix, right? We got new Spider-Man coming and we've got Doctor Strange coming, yes, but we also have a Black Widow movie and we also have Shang-Chi, and so we're seeing a mix now. But I can't help but hysterically laugh at people who suggest that there's some kind of an agenda when really the facts, 20 plus movies made in a row with white male leads. And so far we've had one female lead and one black lead. And that's it. And that shows that the MCU is all completely woke and everything like that. It's stupid. That's stupid. And now we see the MCU saying we are going to be part of the solution, that we're going to stop excluding other people from these stories. And we're going to tell stories that have black lead characters. And we're going to tell stories that have female lead characters. And we're going to tell stories about whatever characters. And don't worry, straight white males, we still got you covered too. We got Thor coming out, and we've got a new Doctor Strange series coming out, and we got new Spider-Man coming. So don't worry, we're included in the mix. We're covered. We're in the mix. It's all good. But it's time for us to tell more stories too. So we're going to tell Miss Marvel. We're going to tell Miss Marvel. And we're going to tell, Blade. We're going to tell Blade. We're going to mix it up now. Here's the thing. I heard somebody once tell me, to people in a position of privilege, equality looks like oppression. And I didn't really get that at first, but to people in a position of privilege, equality looks like oppression. And as I look at not just the MCU, but the film industry as a whole, starting to stop this agenda of exclusion that's been around for over 100 years. It's just different and it's new. And suddenly, wait a minute, the MCU is making 9 new things. Why aren't all 9 of them white guys leading them? There's an agenda. No, they're just mixing it up now. They're just mixing it up, as they should. So anyway, that's just kind of that is my pasty white guy perspective on it. That is my Canadian pasty white guy perspective of a century-old American Hollywood system. So take that for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth, dude. All right, next up. A man named Pooh Bear writes, "Hello, John and Rob. Today marks the 20th anniversary of Remember the Titans." Again, somebody else said that today, but I'm seeing that the official date was the 29th, but whatever. A movie dealing with the social issues we are still dealing with today. Do you remember seeing it at theaters? What were your initial thoughts? How do you feel about it today? Well, we've already talked about how I feel about it today. And honestly, I cannot remember 20 years ago when I first saw it. I'll be straight up with you. I don't know that it had the impact on me the first time I saw it as it did, like, say, the second time I saw it, which was like 5 years later or something like that. But again, like I just mentioned a minute ago, I watched it again a few months ago, kind of spontaneously as it just came on after Ann and I finished watching something else. And so I just decided to stay up and watch it. Floored by how absolutely it holds up today. Absolutely floored by how much it holds up today. To me, it's incredible. All right, Nola writes, just wanted to say thanks for inspiring me to make a YouTube channel and a podcast. Already hit 15,000 subscribers on the channel, and it's time to take podcasts seriously. Any advice on getting sponsors and advertisers on podcasts? Honestly, you're asking the wrong question. Listen, you are just going to get sidetracked. And if you're trying to think about sponsors and things, just don't worry about it. If you are good enough, it will all come. If your stuff is good enough, and if you continue to just focus and keep your attention on making good content, the rest of that stuff will come later. Listen, 15,000 subscribers is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. That is incredible. But there are also a lot of people who, like, I didn't even think about sponsors or anything like that until I got to 100,000. I didn't even think about it till I got to 100,000. So I honestly don't worry about that, because the moment that you do, you're getting sidetracked. You're not going to find stuff that makes you happy right now. I mean, listen, there are affiliate programs you can join up with, depending on who your podcasting services. They'll probably have, hey, we have a service. Well, we'll insert advertisements just like YouTube does into your videos if you have partnership status and things like that. There's all that kind of stuff, but depending on the field you're in, like, listen, if your YouTube channel and podcast are specifically about spinal surgery, there's big money to be made, because if you have a very specific niche like that, then there are going to be big targeted dollars from the medical industry or things that are connected with spinal surgery. If it's a more general thing, like a music podcast or a television podcast or a biking podcast or whatever it is, then you need a little bit more of a critical mass in numbers before you're going to start seeing things that you're going to appreciate. So I would say, honestly, my best piece of recommendation right now is, if you're thinking about sponsorships and adverts right now, you're totally got your focus on the wrong thing. Just keep focusing on your channel, on your podcast. Keep it improving, keep growing, and then worry about all that stuff much later. I would personally suggest worry about it much later. It's just the path that I chose to take. I recommend that to everybody. And don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying 15,000 subscribers. Holy shit, that's great. That is great. But keep that going. Keep that going. That would be my my best piece of advice right now. All right. Next up, we've got Adam, who writes, oh crap, we've only got a couple minutes left. Adam writes, I know reports are false and Joaquin Phoenix wouldn't be one persuaded by money, but do you think Warner Brothers would be open to paying the actor Robert Downey money to appear in a Joker sequel? By the way, I agree that they should just leave the film as a standalone. Yeah, I completely agree too. I don't think they should make another Joker movie, but if I'm an executive at Warner Brothers and I see that the last one we made got us a nomination for Best Picture, won our Best Actor at the Academy Awards, and we made over $1 billion, I might be singing a different tune. Like, as a fan with no vested interest, I'm like, do not make another Joker movie. Leave it alone. But if I was a Warner Brothers executive, I might be singing a different tune. I think if you want to make another Joker movie and Joaquin Phoenix is holding out for a significant payday, I think you pay it. I think you pay it. I mean, if it's a short-term, one-time thing, I think you pay it. He's already shown that he can win an Academy Award for it. He's already shown what he can do in this role. Another Joker movie may not make $1 billion like the first one did, but it's going to make a lot of money. And you simply cannot do it without Joaquin Phoenix in the role. 99% of the time, I say you can replace the actor, but in this specific situation, that would be very, very problematic. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying pay, Joaquin wants $100 million. Well, no, then you don't do it and you just don't do the movie. No, but aside from something ridiculous like that, yeah, I mean, I would look at Robert Downey Jr. level money if he wanted it. If he's willing to do it for 10, great. If he wants more, okay. But if you want to make that movie, I think you need to do it with him. All right, last question we will take today, guys. And then we will, don't worry, any questions left over, there are still a few left over here. We will pick up with those first thing on tomorrow's show. So tomorrow, when we get to the live questions part of the show, we will start off with the few questions that we got left over here. So do not worry. If you didn't see your question get read yet, you'll be first up on tomorrow's show. You sent in those questions. We're going to address them. Thank you for that. All right. Resley Cunningham writes, hope you and Ann have been well. We have enjoyed the comeback of thoughts on walks. Thank you very much. You've mentioned, and I agree, it's inevitable Kevin Feige will be moving up at some point, likely to Alan Horn's position overseeing all of Disney Pictures. What makes me more curious, though, is how he'll handle his replacement. Clearly, what keeps the MCU running so smoothly was a tight ship run by Feige and a crystal clear vision. But Feige seems like a pretty general kind of talent in what he does. Is there anyone with Marvel and or Disney it looks to you as being trained up to take over someday, or a frequent collaborator that simply be a good fit for the job? Love to know your thoughts and keep up the awesome stuff. Stay safe. Well, thank you for that, Wesley. And yes, I do believe, and I have believed for a long time, that Kevin Feige is destined to take over Alan Horn's job. Remember, Alan Horn was dragged out of retirement. Alan Horn had retired as one of the most successful executives in the history of Hollywood. And then Bob Iger came along and said, Alan, I need you to come out of retirement. Come in, we need to build back up Disney Pictures. We got a lot of film studios here. We need somebody to be our main grand poobah overseeing all of our pictures and all of our movies. That needs to be you, Alan. You need to come out of retirement. So Bob Iger convinced Alan Horn to come out of retirement and do this. And look at what Alan Horn has done. Unbelievable what Alan Horn has done. And he is Kevin Feige's boss. I've believed for a long time that Kevin Feige is very specifically being groomed to be the one to let Alan Horn get back to retirement. I honestly think Alan Horn is kind of like Michael Corleone in Godfather Part 3. I feel like he's just been trying to get out. I feel like, let me get back to the beach, you sons of bitches. Sorry, Alan, stay here. We still need you, buddy. We still need you. I think Alan Horn has been desperate to get back to enjoying his retirement. And I think they've been grooming Kevin Feige. I don't have any insider information on that. I'm just saying, to me, it looks clear that Kevin Feige is probably going to be the guy to take over Alan Horn's job. Again, I'm not saying that definitively. I have no information that says that's true. I'm just saying that's what I believe. So who takes over for Kevin Feige if and when that happens? Somebody who's a part of his team already. I honestly believe it'll be somebody who's already part of his team. See, when it comes to stuff like this, everybody starts thinking famous people. Well, who are the directors? Listen, directing is different than being the executive of a studio. Kevin Feige is an executive, right? He has a different skill set than the directors do. It's great. Let directors oversee telling their individual movies. That's what they do. Kevin Feige is an executive. Kevin Feige oversees everything. It's a different skill set. And my starting belief would probably be, it won't be a director. That's my guess. It won't be one of the directors. Kevin Feige has a close-knit circle of about 3 or 4 people that he has worked very closely with his entire time at Marvel. And my guess is he's got a co-executive producer or co-president of Marvel. My guess is that guy will take over the role. My guess is that guy will take over. Jose, who's, I forget. I know his name. I'm just freezing on it. Jose, go. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, Louis D'Esposito. That's who's going to take over. Louis D'Esposito. He will probably. He is currently. His title is the co-president of Marvel Studios. He has worked incredibly closely whenever I have been at any of the big Marvel premieres. Kevin Feige always comes out with Louis D'Esposito and blah, blah. My guess is it's probably a pretty good bet that once Kevin Feige gets promoted up the chain in Disney, probably to Alan Horn's job, where he'll not only be overseeing Marvel, he'll be overseeing Pixar and Disney Animation and Lucasfilm and Disney Pictures. He'll be overseeing all of it. I think the guy that will replace him as the main guy of Marvel films is going to be the guy who has the most experience, the guy who's been there with Kevin the whole time. He's probably the right guy to put in that role. So my guess is that's your guy. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Special thanks to all you guys who sent in the live questions for two reasons. Number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us here involved with the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys very much for that. That'll do it for me, guys. Remember, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.